Hi, it's Alaska Granny. It doesn't have to be an apocalypse for you to need a food storage. Have some emergency food on hand at all times and build it up until you have a bountiful supply. The first rule for good food storage is to buy shelf-stable food. Food that can store in your pantry, doesn't need to be refrigerated, and has a pretty good shelf life for at least, say, 6 months. That would be things like canned foods, packaged foods, dried foods, foods that can live in your pantry and don't require refrigeration. Don't have foods in your freezer or your refrigerator be the only foods that you count on having in an emergency situation. Then you need to store foods that you like. Don't stock up on foods just because they're on sale. If it's not something you eat on a regular basis, you're less likely to want it when you're tired, hungry, or in an emergency. Store what you eat and eat what you store. Figure out what food you eat over a period of time. Keep track of how many servings of different things you have and stockpile more of those foods. Stock up on things that you do eat regularly and make sure you have plenty of them on hand so that you can continue to enjoy the things that you like. Then you want to store them so that it's first in, first out. If you already have, say, tuna or beans on hand when you buy new, push the old ones to the front of the shelf and put the new cans to the back. Constantly be eating the older food first and put the newer food in the back, just like they do in the grocery store. If you're not rotating your food, you end up with food that becomes lost in the back of your pile. It becomes expired, it may not be good anymore, and then you don't want in a real emergency that that's all the food you have left, something that's 10 years old and possibly spoiled. If you like to eat fresh foods, that doesn't mean you can't have a food stockpile. Think of the foods that you like to have fresh, but in a time of need, you can have them in a canned form or a dried form. If you like bananas, buy some dried bananas. If you like peaches, get canned peaches. If you like grapes, stockpile some raisins. There are ways to still continue to have the things that you like in a shelf-stable and longer-lasting form of food. Then you want to store basic foods, longer term. Get some dried foods, foods that by nature last a long time. Stockpile some dried beans and rice. Honey, salt, sugar, those are shelf-stable for many, many years, and basic foods that'll last and last. Make sure you check the serving size and calorie content and be aware of what would be an entire day's meal from the things that you stockpiled. Then you want to store your food properly. It needs to be stored in a cool, dry place. Things that are in a jar need to be stored in the dark. The light will also cause your food to degrade, and you don't want your food to be spoiled or wasted. Make sure you buy a variety of food. There's nothing more disheartening than having the same thing over and over and over. Look at your family on a regular basis. Who looks forward to the last leftovers of something that you made days ago? No one. So if that was all that you could continue to serve them day after day after day, people are going to become sad, disgruntled, and you don't want to have to deal with food fatigue. So look at the things that you eat, stockpile those in a shelf-stable form, and then rotate them. It just makes sense to have extra food on hand. You never want your family to go without the things they really need. So stock up on basic foods. Make sure you also have water, have some hygiene supplies, first aid gear, and things that make your life run smoothly on a day-to-day basis. Those are the things that you need to have on hand so that you can continue to live the life that you have, you want, and enjoy. If you have the things you need in times of emergency, you can maintain the life that you're living while you figure out what to do next. I hope you'll like my video, share my video, and please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.